For the Naugrim withstood fire more heartily than either elves or men. Hello and welcome to all the men and women of the West. I'm Joe. Today it's time for another Fury video. Well, it's been a bit of a while since I made one of these. This Fury video is going to involve the dragons. They're a bit of the tank in Tolkien's Middle-earth universe, able to turn the tide of battle in a split second, in some ways even almost comparable to an atomic bomb. It has been joked around about on the internet that Morgoth essentially had his own R&D department somewhere under Angband. On the other hand, you've had people who have theorized that they were a perversion of the eagles, so that Morgoth kind of had his own eagles against Manwë's giant eagles. But a larger question would be, if such is the case, why didn't Glaurung have wings? Because he's a wingless dragon. That's a question I'm going to try to answer to the best of my ability. It's noted in the quote I read that the Naugrim, the dwarves, withstand fire far more heartily than any other peoples of Arda can. They are able to endure heats and temperatures that would have melted probably the other races. And some of you may already guess where I'm going, but what I'm thinking is part of the reason the dwarves are so resilient lies in that they innately are, but another reason that they might have some resilience is there's a connection between the dragons, like Glaurung, and them. My theory is going to be that Morgoth did not start with eagles. He experimented on and fused together a great many dwarves into Glaurung. Now, fused some of himself into Glaurung, but my theory is that Glaurung was essentially born from the experiments performed upon a great many dwarves, possibly thousands of them. This is a reversal in a way, and a nod, I think, to the myths of Ymir's slaying in Norse mythology. What happened in Norse mythology at the beginning of time is that Ymir, the original giant, from whom the corpse of the whole of Midgard was created. From some of his spilt blood in the battle against him came the dwarves. Now, in Tolkien's universe, I would theorize that Glaurung was created from the amalgamation of dwarves. Heat resistance was channeled in such a way to create fire from within Glaurung's belly. Thus, he can breathe fire. And that Morgoth did this, but Glaurung was just a start, as becomes evident. Glaurung was then made to, as one Tolkien tuber theorized, I can't remember which one, was made to mate with eagles that Morgoth had captured. And from this perverted union came the winged dragons. They were enhanced further by Morgoth's own essence, as he was wont to do to a lot of his creations and experiments, so that you got something as big as Angalagan the Black. These eagles and Glaurung's mating created the winged dragons that so popularly inhabit Tolkien's world. You have a combination of dwarves being thrown together, maybe with a touch of the essence of a Balrog. From there, you get this giant beast. Now, I know a lot of you might be thinking, yeah, but dwarves are small. This makes no sense. The dwarves are remarkably resilient to heat. They come from deep within the earth. It's very likely Morgoth ran into them first when he came back to Angband, before the Noldor caught up with him. So we have many dwarves that were enslaved in his mines, but maybe when they became too old to work, they were taken aside for other projects, such as being fused into Glaurung. Glaurung, who came from deep within the bowels of Angband. It's written in the actual text. So he comes from deep within the bowels. The dwarves, many of them were enslaved deep in the bowels of Angband. So I theorize he came from the same location as them. And this would essentially make millennia later, when Smaug was devouring dwarves, a kind of cannibalism, as there's dwarvish blood inside of Smaug. And it is for this reason that dragon greed, that mystical dark side of dragons that seeps into their treasures, such as the Arkenstone or the Nauglamir, ends up being such a problem for dwarves, because in a way their metaphysical essence is linked to that of the dragons. They're working on kind of the same spiritual and metaphysical current. And if that's the case, that means that the dwarves such as Mim and Thorin were essentially far more easily infected because of this connection between the dwarves and dragons. This would mean that they are extremely vulnerable to the dragons in terms of the dragon greed, as shown in the actual legendarium. It means that, in turn, this is part of the reason why they're so resilient to the fire, as well as they're able to dig deeper into the earth and are thus more resilient to heat because they dig deeper. Dwarves in Tolkien's legendarium are thus associated with the earth and with fire, two things that the dragons are a few times associated with. You have imagery of Smaug and Glaurung wrapped up around their treasures, which are underground inside of mountains. The imagery is similar. You have the obsession with gold that both have. There's so many similarities, and I think they begin and kind of end at the metaphysical. But that's just what I think. Tell me what you think in the comments down below, whether or not you agree with this theory or not. Don't forget, if you enjoyed the video, smash that like button, share the video, and smash that subscribe button like you're Morgoth trying to smash Fingolfin into itty-bitty pieces.